Hi, I'm Karen, and this is my Week 14 NFL picks. Now, a lot has gone on this season so far, and this past week, a lot has gone on in the NFL. So, let's get right to my picks. Tonight's game, the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Cleveland Browns lost 10-24 to the Ravens. McCoy had 192 passing yards and one interception. They had 3 penalties for 37 yards. He was sacked 3 times for 22 yards lost and no fumbles. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers won 35-7 over the Bengals. Ben Roethlisberger had 176 passing yards. They had 4 penalties for 29 yards, 3 sacks for 17 yards lost, made 1 interception. And Ben Roethlisberger, he threw 2 touchdowns, and he has broke Terry Bradshaw's record for career completions. So it was a good day for Ben Roethlisberger there. So I think with tonight's game, Steelers are going to win it no problem. Next game to talk about is the Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals. Houston Texans are 9-3, Bengals are 7-5. The Texans won 17-10 over the Falcons. Yates had 188 passing yards. They had 5 penalties for 35 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 3 times for 13 yards lost, made 2 interceptions for 34 yards, and they won the franchise record of 6 straight games won. So, good day for the Houston Texans too last week. Now, Cincinnati Bengals, they lost 7-35 to the Steelers. Dalton had 135 passing yards. Gronkowski had 17 passing yards and 1 interception. They had 10 penalties for 109 yards, 1 fumble, 3 sacks for 24 yards lost, and their 1 touchdown pass from Dalton to Green was all they had. But I think the Bengals are going to make up for it. They're playing at home, and they're going to come back strong, and the Bengals are going to win. Next game, Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Now, the Vikings lost 32-35 to the Broncos. 32-35 to the Broncos. Ponder had 381 passing yards, 2 interceptions. They had 6 penalties for 54 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 3 times for 29 yards lost, and Christian Ponder set a Minnesota single-game rookie record with 381 passing yards and a pair of long touchdowns. So that was really a good day for Christian Ponder. The Detroit Lions lost 17-31 to the Saints. Stafford had 408 passing yards, 1 interception. They had 11 penalties for 107 yards. They sacked 3 times for 29 yards lost. But I think the Lions are going to be able to do it, and they're going to pull out the win. Next one is the Oakland Raiders and the undefeated Green Bay Packers, which almost were not undefeated after last week. Oakland Raiders lost 14-34 to the Dolphins. Palmer had 273 passing yards and 1 interception. They had 10 penalties for 91 yards, sacked 2 times for 15 yards lost, no fumbles, and McFadden was out, which if I knew that when I did my show last week, I would not have picked the Raiders to win. Green Bay Packers, they won 38-35 over the Giants. Rodgers had 369 passing yards and 1 interception. They had 4 penalties for 30 yards, sacked 2 times for 9 yards lost, no fumbles, made 1 interception for 38 yards, and they won in the last 58 seconds by a field goal. The Giants had left in 58 seconds, so a tie score, and it was enough for Rodgers to make 3 plays down to the end zone and win the game. So I think the Packers are going to stay undefeated, and they're going to win that game. Now, the New Orleans Saints and the Tennessee Titans. Now, the New Orleans Saints won 31-17 over the Lions. Drew Brees had 342 passing yards. They had 3 penalties for 30 yards, sacked 2 times for 4 yards lost, and they made 1 interception. Tennessee Titans won 23-17 over the Bills. Hasselbeck had 140 passing yards. They had 3 penalties for 20 yards, sacked 1 time for 10 yards lost, and Chris Johnson rushed for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they did pretty good, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. I think the Saints are going to win. next game we talk about is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins. Both teams are 4-8. Now the Philadelphia Eagles lost 14-31 to the Seahawks. Young had 208 passing yards. They had 4 interceptions. Not a very good night for the Eagles last week. They had 5 penalties for 30 yards, sacked 2 times for 10 yards lost. Now the Miami Dolphins won 34-14 over the Raiders. Moore had 162 passing yards. They had 8 penalties for 79 yards, no fumbles, sacked 1 time for 9 yards lost, made 1 interception for 34 yards. Reggie Bush rushed for 100 yards and 1 touchdown, and they won 4 of their past 5 games. So the Dolphins have really turned things around, and I think they turned things around enough that the Dolphins are going to beat the Eagles. So, Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Jets. Now the Kansas City Chiefs won 10-3 over the Bears. I called that one. Palco had 157 passing yards. They had 8 penalties for 60 yards, 2 fumbles where they lost just 1 of them. They had sacked 2 times for 18 yards lost. They made 3 interceptions for no yards. And at the end of the first half, they had a 38-yard touchdown pass, which was their first touchdown in 3 games. So Chiefs haven't been doing very well, but they picked it up over the Bears. Now the New York Jets, they won 34-19 over the Redskins. Sanchez had 165 passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 40 yards, 1 fumble, no sacks, and they made 1 interception for 3 yards. So I think with this game, the Jets are going to win. Now, the New England Patriots and the Washington Redskins. Now, the New England Patriots won 31-24 over the Colts. Brady had 289 passing yards. They had 3 penalties for 20 yards, sacked 1 time, no yards lost, and made 1 interception for 2 yards. Now, the Patriots, that was kind of a close game there against the Colts. The Colts were doing very well. So it was got a little scary there for the Patriots. Now the Washington Redskins, they lost 19-34 to the Jets. Grossman had 221 passing yards, 1 interception. They had 6 penalties for 50 yards, 3 fumbles where they lost 2 of them, sacked 2 times for 17 yards lost. And I don't think the Redskins are going to do enough to beat the Patriots. The Patriots were doing very well, and I think they're going to win. Now the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. Let's see, the Falcons are 7-5, the Panthers are 4-8. Now the Falcons lost 10-17 to the Texans. Ryan had 267 passing yards and 2 interceptions. Threw 2 interceptions. They had 7 penalties for 43 yards, no sacks, no fumbles. But the Carolina Panthers, they won 38-19 over the Buccaneers. Newton had 204 passing yards. Noni had 27 passing yards, 2 penalties for 20 yards, sacks 2 times for 9 yards lost, made 1 interception for 9 yards. And I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to win. Now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost 19-38 to Panthers. Freeman was out, which I didn't know till that morning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Johnson had 229 passing yards and threw 1 interception. They had 9 penalties for 73 yards, sacked 2 times for 22 yards lost. Jacksonville Jaguars lost 14-38 to the Chargers. Gabbert had 195 passing yards and 1 interception. You know what? If Freeman is still out, I'm going with the Jaguars. Because the Bucs could not play without Freeman. Now this is a very interesting game. The Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. Now the Indianapolis Colts lost 24-31 to the Patriots. But Orlovsky had 353 passing yards and only 1 interception. They had 5 penalties for 29 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 2 times for 15 yards lost. Huge improvement. They had, 3 touchdowns in the 4th quarter. I think I saw, because I only got to watch the first half of the game. But that they played amazing. They definitely challenged the Patriots. They were awesome. If they can play this way for the rest of the season, they are going to have some wins. The Baltimore Ravens won 24-10 over the Broncos. Flacco had 158 passing yards, 4 penalties for 18 yards, sacked 1 time with 0 yards lost, 1 fumble, made 1 interception for 32 yards lost. If the Colts can continue to play like they did last week, I'm taking the Colts. And hopefully they can get a win. Now, San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals. The 49ers won 26-0 over the Rams. Smith had 274 passing yards. They had 8 penalties for 72 yards, sacked 4 times for 29 yards lost, made 1 interception for 13 yards. Frank Gore became the 49ers' career rushing leader, and they wrapped up the NFC West crown, the first time since 2002 that they've done that in the before the end of the season. Now, the Arizona Cardinals won 19-13 over the Cowboys. Kolb had 247 passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 41 yards, sacked 5 times for 23 yards lost. And there's no question, 49ers are going to win this one. They already picked up the NFC West. They're going to keep on winning. Little friend here. Chicago Bears and the Denver Broncos. Chicago Bears lost 3-10 to the Chiefs. Haney had 133 passing yards, 3 interceptions. They had 5 penalties for 35 yards, sacked 7 times for 45 yards lost. The unbeatable Denver Broncos now. They won 35-32 over the Vikings. Tebow had 202 passing yards. They had 8 penalties for 73 yards, fumbles 3 with only 2 losing them, only lost 2 of them. Sacked 2 times for 16 yards lost, made 2 interceptions for 36 yards. They just keep winning with Tebow there at the helm. So I think the Broncos are going to keep on winning. Now the Buffalo Bills and the San Diego Chargers. The Bills lost 17-23 to the Titans. Fitzpatrick had 288 passing yards. They had 2 penalties for 15 yards, fumbled 3 times where they lost 2 of them, sacked 1 time for 6 yards lost. San Diego Chargers won 38-14 over the Jaguars. Rivers had 294 passing yards. Now this was what the Chargers that we're used to seeing, and I think the Chargers are going to beat the Bills. And the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. Sunday Night Football. This is going to be a good game. Giants lost 35-38 to the Packers, but they barely lost. Manning had 347 passing yards, 1 interception. They had 6 penalties for 55 yards, 1 fumble, 1 sack for no yards lost. Made 1 interception for 9 yards. It was a close game. They were tied. They just left Rodgers just a little bit too much time. I think that's the Giants that they have to bring to the field every week. And they just bring that to the field every week, and they're going to win every game because that was good playing. Dallas Cowboys lost 13-19 to the Cardinals. Romo had 299 passing yards, 7 penalties for 49 yards, sacked 5 times for 38 yards lost. So there's no question who I'm picking, the Giants. I think they're going to have no problems winning. St. Louis Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. The St. Louis Rams lost 0-26 to the 49ers. Feely had 156 passing yards, 1 interception. They had 5 penalties for 35 yards, 1 fumble, sacked 4 times for 30 yards lost. Seattle Seahawks won 31-14 over the Eagles. Jackson had 190 passing yards. They had 5 penalties for 28 yards, sacked 3 times for 17 yards lost. And get this, they made 4 interceptions for 146. They made 4 interceptions for 146 yards and 1 touchdown. So they gained a lot on interceptions there. So I think though with this matchup, Seattle's gonna keep on winning there. So just to wrap up my Week 14 picks, I have Steelers over the Browns, the Bengals over the Texans, Lions over the Vikings, Packers over the Raiders, Saints over the Titans, Dolphins over the Eagles, Jets over the Chiefs, Patriots over the Redskins, Falcons over the Panthers, Jaguars over the Buccaneers, Colts over the Ravens, 49ers over the Cardinals, Broncos over the Bears, Chargers over the Bills, Giants over the Cowboys, and the Seahawks over the Rams. And that's my Week 14 picks. Enjoy your week of football, and I will see you here next week.